welcome to the Friendly Fire podcast. And I am joined by my second in command, I should have come up with a better name for you. The diehard Cincinnati Bengals fan, Mr. Patrick Hitzler. And how about them Bengals, my friend?
Fuck you, man. I
had to go there.
Just fuck you.
I didn't even watch the game, so what happened? Just kind of lay it on me.
Well, the Bears, smacked the shit out of us. That's what happened. A very inferior team beat the hell out of it. It wasn't even close. It was 33-7 or something, and
kind of thought you guys had a chance, because, the Bears aren't doing good. You saw, they definitely got their shit smacked around.
Yeah, well, they smacked us around, so what does that make us? Anyway, yeah, I'm actually kind of glad that happened. It kind of showed that, dude, the season's over. Let's just move on.
Pretty much. I mean, hopefully you get a good draft pick out of it. I mean, I don't follow football too much, but hopefully that, I don't know, kind of brings something good for you guys. I'm from Cincinnati once again, but, the Bengals are not my team. I don't really have a football team. I guess I more associate with the Bears. Duh, Bears.
I'm ready for I'm ready for the people who watch this show for us to stop talking about football, which is coming up in the next 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're gonna have to deal with some playoff stuff, and I mostly bring it up just because it amuses me, your reactions to the Bengals.
Yeah.
And which is gonna kind of not be as fun when it's just regular non-football season.
Well,
I might miss it a little bit. Maybe just a little bit.
Maybe. We'll take you to a game next year. Speaking of stuff that's ended, South Park ended this week. And for my topic, I kind of wanted to just review South Park a little bit.
Okay, feel free.
So, well, you saw every episode, right?
Yes, I did.
All right, season 21. We're going to pull up the list. We're going to talk about every single episode and then the season as a whole. And it'll be real quick.
Yeah, some of these I might not even really remember much, but yeah.
Okay, 1 second. First one, white people renovating houses. Randy and Sharon start a home.
The worst episode of the season.
By far.
Easy.
That was one of the worst episodes of South Park, period. And I don't understand how Brian and people like that think it's funny. It just blows my mind. It was one of the worst episodes possibly of any show I've ever seen. It was just stupid.
For me, being a defender of the past couple seasons of South Park, when we've had our discussions, this one just face-planted right out of the gates, and that... Unfortunately, it took me a while to shake that feeling off. That was so bad that, the next couple weeks after watching South Park, I'm like, I'll take my time with this. I don't really have to watch it, right away Thursday morning like I used to.
Agreed. Put It Down. Tweak and Craig's relationship is strained, and there's a bunch of issue with North Korea.
Maybe my favorite of the season?
It was good.
Maybe.
It wasn't my favorite.
It's close. It's really good. That should have been the way they start the season.
I agree. That would have been good. Holiday special. A relationship is formed when Randy kisses a Native American man. That one was just weird.
It was okay. It has one really funny bit. One really funny bit.
Which one?
Basically him kicking the Native American guy out dressed as Christopher Columbus and being like, don't post that.
I agree. Franchise prequel. The Coon and Friends members struggle to start a superhero franchise with fake news getting spread about them. Weak.
After you.
This was weak. God, when the game was awesome, the game had a great story, and you set up your game like that after you had the Black Friday trilogy for your last game, what are you doing? That was bad.
Yeah, it's...
Zuckerberg wasn't
I didn't even play the game yet, but that one just kind of bored me. Especially the Mark Zuckerberg stuff. I get that it was based on how he actually talks, but it didn't do anything for me.
Agreed. Hummels and heroin. Opioids cause a problem in South Park and Stan is believed to be responsible. That one was gross, but it was pretty funny. I actually like that one.
Yeah, I like that one too. The old person farting bit is kind of odd.
That's South Park.
Yeah, but that one was... I don't know. They played that joke maybe a little too much.
Possibly. Sons of Witches. Good. When a witch causes problems for South Park's Halloween, Cartman looks for a way to take revenge.
There are some parts that I do like. I particularly like Garrison at the end. I love the exchange with Butters and Garrison. How's the wall covered around? Now you're just being a dick, Butters.
I thought this one was okay. Doubling Down, that was that one that was all about Heidi and Kyle and them dating.
I have come around on that episode because of the second half. Like, when I first saw that, we had that discussion, I really wasn't liking it, but I've come around on it.
Moss Piglets, Timmy and Jimmy's science project catches the attention of some very important people. That's the Water Bears in the NFL. Well, I thought that was funny. I think any episode involving those two guys, what are their names? Mimsy and Nathan. I hate all those episodes. That's
really?
One of the best
I like
ones.
those. What?
I don't. Those characters just annoy the shit out of me. But that was still a good episode. Super hard PC-ness. PC principal falls in love with the new vice principal, and Kyle realizes how wrong Terrence and Philip are. This one I just didn't get.
Really?
Like the nuking of Canada and like the PC love was just kind of like, okay, like, all right. Strong Woman's funny, but like,
dug it, yeah.
How funny is she going to be later on? She was funny for that episode, and then the next episode she was just there.
True, but I mean, like, it was there for the whole gag of like the Harvey Weinstein stuff showed up in the finale. That was just great.
That was fun.
You slept with your superior?
And then Splatty Tomato. Oh no, that's Splatty Tomato you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the last one. No, yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah.
At least that joke, though.
See, all the funny stuff for me was like they were making fun of Stranger Things and and I thought that was cool because that's South Park. It was a little late.
Yeah. It was cool.
And then Heidi had her redeeming moment.
There's sort of a weird... I'm surprised the nuke thing doesn't get brought up in the next episode.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's weird. Like, they kind of bring it up because
I mean,
Ike is hunting down the president.
It's sort of weird to bring up, like... It's brought up, but not really, and it's kind of weird for me to talk about that because it is South Park, and it's not really trying to be super realistic. Like, there is the episode where, like, everyone nukes Finland.
Mm-hmm.
And no one makes a big deal out of that, and I don't make a big deal out of that. I think it's funny, but for some reason, the ending of, like, 9 felt like a big deal. It was like, oh shit, what are they going to do?
And it was just kind of screwed on the rug. Like, Ike became the star of that storyline. It's like, oh, we're going to hunt the president to Canada. It's like...
Yeah. I mean, I still think it's funny, and I think the second half is far away the best stuff of the season.
I think
it's just much more consistent in the back half. The front half, there's just a lot of bits where I'm like, I'm enjoying this, but there's just some stuff I'm clearly not enjoying that much.
I like... So they did a lot of continuity with season 20, like with Heidi going back to the bridge and going to the shack where Cartman got all his stuff broken.
Yeah.
That stuff's cool and all, but like I don't mind continuity. I don't mind when it's cute. Like when PC Principal shows up for the first time and he's like a white man who thinks he's Asian who is building a wall to keep out Mongolians. What the fuck is this? Or like Mr. Garrison being a woman. Like that stuff's fine, but like this felt... I thought we were done with continuity, and I didn't mind the Cartman Heidi story, but at certain points, like when there was an entire episode based around it, and like, I don't know.
You see, I kind of liked it in the back half though because they made a point for that episode. Because the Heidi and Cartman stuff being like the oh hey Cartman, and then his eyes just being like whatever honey, like that joke for most of the first half was just not that funny for me. And then when she became a female Cartman, that was kind of funny.
Fair.
And then when they brought up a whole point of like victimhood and such, and you know how toxic that can be if you let it be that toxic, was really good.
It was good. No,
it's just the journey getting there in the first half was not particularly good.
This season, my biggest it saved itself because when it started, I thought it was done.
Yeah,
like, I was like,
no, that first episode is genuinely horrible.
So. It was a good season. Like I didn't mind. It wasn't as continuity filled as season 20, which I think is possibly one of the worst seasons of South Park ever. I hate it. I hate it. I don't think it's funny. I think it's garbage. And I thought this did
I would
better.
watch most of season 20 over the first half of this season.
I would too. And that shows you how bad the first half started. Like first half's bad. And then kind of
and it's funny because they went back to basics. They were basically one and done episodes, they weren't as serialized. Certain things did pick up, but actually, something else I kind of liked. I appreciated how Garrison is handled for digs at Trump, but I kind of like how they didn't just turn an entire season into just like going after Trump every single time.
I agree. He's just.
I think because they kept it to a minimum, the jokes that they threw out there landed. They were really funny, as opposed to just being every week doing it. Might just get kind of tiring at a point because you didn't have like every single week Bush or Obama when South Park was running.
My last point is I just don't think that things are ever going to get better than they were in like season 10 or season 8. Like some of the, like, or season 13 even. Like there will be some seasons that just never get topped. And I've kind of just realized like they're running out, and it's fine. Like it's okay. It's like
they've kept like a quality control for much longer than anyone else, basically. And I mean, they still have some hits in them. It's just I think my peak season was probably the Black Friday season.
Agreed. And it's just
like that one was just so good.
I've just kind of hit a wall, and I'm fine with South Park. Like I have no problem with them keep going. Like let them keep going. I don't look forward to it as much as I used to, and then maybe that's just me growing with the show. And I think Trey and Matt probably feel the same way.
I think maybe I've been hearing some people bring up that they're in an identity crisis, and I can kind of see that when you look at they tried to do serialization for the last couple of years, and I guess they decided that didn't work, so they're kind of trying to go back to doing one and dones, but still kind of having some story momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And
go on.
Maybe they did a better job of it here than the other ones. I don't know. I would have to rewatch it at some point to really figure that out, but it's pretty good. Because of that back half, it's pretty good.
If you had to rank this season with a number, what would it be out of 10?
7.
I was going to say 7, too. And, like, if you took out the first episode, I would give it, like, maybe an 8. But
I'd say, like, a 7.5.
Yeah. So, it was just, like, at this point, it's just South Park. And I thought there were really great moments, but nothing to think, man, this show is a must-watch every Wednesday night. Like, I'll watch it when I get time.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I think that finale I watched on Friday, not even Thursday. So I don't know. I guess I don't really have anything else to add to it.
Fair, me either. Game Awards were on Thursday. They were a success.
Yeah.
Zelda won.
I was right, by the way.
That Zelda won.
I was right that Nintendo would win.
Dude, Mario got snubbed out of a lot. Mario only won Best Family Game. That category that I think is stupid.
Which is kind of interesting, because didn't you say that Mario was better than Zelda?
I didn't say that. I said Mario should probably win more.
No. This is like in a conversation we had a few weeks back. Like, I'm pretty sure I was getting you in a corner to say that, like, you liked one over the other.
I think I just told you what I wanted to tell you at the time. They're both perfect. I'm not picking. Zelda DLC might push me over the top.
They're gonna do DLC for Zelda?
Yeah, and it looks really good. The story DLC, and I'm fine with that. Horizon won
Nintendo
nothing.
doing that.
Huh? Well, yeah, I know.
I'm not used to Nintendo doing that.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. Horizon won nothing. Crazy. I thought they would win something, and they didn't win a single award. Persona only won Best RPG. Whatever, I'm just glad it was nominated. PUBG won Best Multiplayer, but they forgot to announce it, and it was the only one on their site the next day that wasn't updated. So then they had to tweet out at like 5 p.m. It's like, oh, by the way, PUBG won Best Multiplayer.
Wow, so it was kind of like the afterthought of the video game awards?
Pretty much. There were a bunch of weird stuff that happened. The dude who went on and said fuck the Oscars on screen was a little too much.
That was interesting.
I mean, the Game Awards tweeted it like that day, and they stood by it. Like they weren't gonna hide it or be embarrassed.
I think it helps that they are streamed and they don't have to go by network standards, because if that was on regular cable TV, I think even that would have been a problem for them.
Agreed. But overall, it was a good show. Death Stranding looks fucking weird, though. That was the only thing where I was like, what the fuck?
So what games got announced?
Bayonetta 3.
Okay.
Some game from Software. We didn't see much of it. Not much got announced. Like a World War Z game got announced. this game by the guys who did Payday, a new game from the guys who did Firewatch, and then a bunch of other ones. So it was a good show. Anyway, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, for me, this is a news story that kind of started as like, oh, I'll talk about it just as a hypothetical, and now it's becoming dangerously close to being a reality. So Disney, as of the most recent news update, is basically meeting with their bankers to coordinate a buyout of quite a bit of Fox's assets.
Really?
Yes. I don't have the exact breakdown, but essentially they're going to buy up all of Fox's films, TV assets, FX, a lot of their sports channels. Fox is just holding on to a few things. Like, they're keeping Fox News. They're keeping... I think they have to keep Channel 19 Fox because I think technically, because Disney owns ABC, they're not allowed to own a basic TV channel. I don't think they're actually allowed to do that, so they can't sell that. But they're buying up so much of Fox, it's basically insane. And I'm very mixed about this. Because on one hand, there is a really cool bright side to the comic fan in me. Because Disney will own the Fox and properties, which would basically be Fantastic Four and X-Men. That means that they could finally be included in multimedia and not get snubbed, which conveniently, I almost guarantee you that if this deal goes through, you'll probably hear within a month, oh, there's going to be an X-Men pack for MVCI. Just you wait. Like, it's probably going to happen because a lot of... it's never officially been said, but it's basically all but been confirmed that a lot of, like, the MCU characters get more representation in multimedia these days, video games, TV, even in the comics, because they don't want to give attention to the other studios who own them. Which is unfortunate because that means that Fantastic Four hasn't been in the comics for the last couple of years, as a team anyway. Mm-hmm. And Inhumans have kind of gotten a bump, kind of trying to fill in that void. And they kind of got called out on that, and they've kind of stepped that back over the last couple of years. And then even, obviously, MVCI focusing on the MCU and not having characters like Wolverine, Magneto, Doctor Doom. You know, Fox characters who've been a part of those games for a long time, but, you know, they're known by the other companies now, so we don't want to give them attention. It's unfortunate because that only just hurts the fans. Like, it's obvious, I get that you don't want to... You want to make money on the characters that you own the rights to, at least exclusively. I kind of get that to a degree, but unfortunately it's just, I don't know, the comic side, like, not having a Fantastic Four book isn't really going to affect the films that much. So I never really bought the argument that taking away a Fantastic Four book would be negatively affecting the films. Like, that Fantastic Four movie was going to be bad, whether, like, the 2015 one, that was going to be bad whether or not there was a Fantastic Four comic backing it up. Mm-hmm. It did not matter because comic book fans, you know, like, at best there's a couple 100,000 of them. And there are millions upon millions of film goers. So, you know, at the end of the day, if, like, every single comic book fan was like, screw this, I'm not going to see a film, that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Not that much. You wouldn't notice that much of a difference if, like, the rest of the film audience loved it. Mm-hmm. So... That's one upside. It's like, okay, finally we can get some Fantastic Four reprints. We can get them back into the comics. We can get some multimedia stuff. That's great. On the comic side also, though, there's one very big downside, at least in my opinion. The X-Men films, the Fox side, the X-Men films, they're going to get screwed over big time. Like, I want people to look me in the face and tell me that Logan and Deadpool would have happened under the Marvel Studios watch.
Never
would have happened. And basically what that means, if this goes through, which by all means looks like now it's almost a certainty. They said there's going to be news updating it next week. But, like, it looks like 2018 is going to be a swan song of the Fox films. We're going to be getting New Mutants, which is Deadpool, which is Deadpool 2, I should say. and X-Men Dark Phoenix. I would say 2 of the 3 I'm really looking forward to, and 1 I'm very tentative on. But either way, it's going to be really bittersweet because I've really come to respect the Fox films. They're not perfect. They've made mistakes. But at the same time, they have been so bold in how they have made their films, especially over the last 5 to 7 years. Like, X-Men First Class is still one of my favorite superhero films of all time, and that's a period piece. And that was, like, coming right off the backs of all the crap that went down with X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins Wolverine, just 2 piece of shit films. And they come in and do First Class, and it's just this big reinvigoration. And then Days of Future Past comes out, and that's also just this really bold, crazy movie that shouldn't have been good, but it was. And I don't know, and then you cap it off even with, like, I appreciate the idea of Deadpool more than the execution of Deadpool, but I still respect that film. Also just because Ryan Reynolds has been, like, working his ass off to make that thing a reality. But then Logan, man, fucking Logan. Like, that is, as far as, like, Marvel films, it's very, very rare when you can, like, actually say the phrase, this thing could go toe-to-toe with Dark Knight. Like, a lot of times, like, films will be told that on, like, a cover of a box, but it's not really true. Logan kind of can. It's one of the only Marvel films that actually could live up to that. And now it's just going to be gone now. Like, it's unfortunate, because I was really respecting the direction they were going, just focusing on individual quality films and not necessarily shoving a cinematic universe down your throat. And it's unfortunate.
I don't understand how a deal like this can go through. And I'm not even talking about from the comic side. I agree with 100% with what you said. Like, this does take a lot away from that Fox Marvel studio, those studios that do a good job. They make money at the box office. They tell interesting stories, and they do those stories justice. I'm more shocked at everything else that they included. You said that includes FX, it includes their sports channel,
Yeah.
it includes everything.
That's the big downside of, like, besides the Fox films, why I'm mixed on it, the fact that Disney is, like, dangerously close to owning every single franchise IP that's worth a damn is terrifying.
Yeah, it's just getting, like, even, take it from me, who understands the comic side. I also understand, like, the local TV side of it, too, like with sports. They have a network, and if they own that network, that's fine, but if they give up all of those channels, like, what is the NFL going to do? What's NCAA going to do? Like, Disney already owns ESPN and all them, and now they're going to own one of the big 3 local networks? Like, come on.
Well, like I said, they can't own one of the basic TV channels, like the 19 Fox channel. They can't own that. Because of one of the laws, like, basically, because they own ABC, they can't own Fox TV. They can own FX because it's a cable channel, but, like, the basic channels, like, you know, NBC, ABC, CBS, they can't buy Fox. They can't buy that channel.
Yeah, I mean, they can have Fox
But still, it's, like, just the pure amount of content. They're going to own Aliens and Predator. They're going to own... I'm pretty sure they're going to own Die Hard. I think Die Hard's a Fox thing. Like, they're going to own so much more on top of this, and it's just, like... I was fine if... I would have been more okay if it was Disney saying, look, we're going to buy back the X-Men and Fantastic Four rights. Because that's always, like, been a confusing thing to me, is like, okay, so you're Disney, you're making so much money on these Marvel films, you're seriously telling me you can't just float a big old cash offer to Fox to buy back the rights? You're telling me you can't do that? Like, that's always confused me. But unfortunately, I guess we're seeing the reality of that is... it was probably never going to just be the Marvel stuff. It's like, if you're going to do that, obviously they're going to try and get as much as they can, unfortunately. And that's just not good. It's having one network having that much control over things is... I don't think that should be allowed based on that. I kind of hope that someone steps in and kind of strikes that down.
I'm kind of shocked this deal's going through. And
Well, it's close.
It's going
very
through.
Close. About 2 weeks ago, like about a month ago, there were rumblings of this very same thing, and it broke down almost the exact same day. It just got renewed about a week and a half ago, and yes, it is getting very close to being done, but until that ink is dry, I wouldn't take it as 100%.
No,
it's. Oh, after you.
no, like I don't see Disney owning these franchises being good in any sense. Yeah, all the positives that you listed, like the negatives outweigh them so much more.
I agree. Yeah, it's very minuscule stuff. I just wanted to start with that because they were just like the things from the comic side where it's like, oh, hey, it would be really nice to see Wolverine in a video game again. And just these little minor things that are just kind of like clearly. It's clear what the reason is why they can't include the characters, but they have to tiptoe around it still. And it's like, look, if you just tell me why you can't do it, that's fine. Like the Capcom thing saying like well, I'm not sure if anyone recognizes the X-Men anymore or would know what they are. Well, that's funny. That's like 20 years of your company's legacy too.
The Capcom excuse is bullshit. Like,
but that's the kind of excuse that gets filtered throughout the entire thing. Like that sort of reasoning gets thrown throughout most multimedia things. And it's like, sometimes with comic people, it's a little more blunt. Like, there were a couple people who would say, like, okay, well, why would they make a story with this character and this thing if they're only making a third of the money on that character?
Yeah, I get that.
And, I mean, my response has always been, well, that's sticking with your fans, you know? It's like, I know that you're going to make money regardless. You're Disney. You're not having to worry about stuff. Like, do it because, you know, you have fans who have been following these characters for years and just suddenly dropping them off is kind of
they don't give a shit.
Disrespectful.
They don't give a shit. We're gonna stay where we are. We're gonna buy the Marvel and DC license. Like, nothing's changing.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that was like one of the only somewhat plus sides on a minuscule thing. But like we both have said, there's just a mountain of downsides to this kind of thing, and it's a lot of. It's coming down to basically like Amazon versus Disney as far as like power goes versus Google. It's gonna be a three-way like corporation war.
I feel bad that you comic fans with a voice don't have the same voice as like us gamers. Like when Battlefront had all its bullshit. Like, you don't think Disney's gonna pay attention to like the sales of Battlefront, which came out and they're fucking awful. Like, they're bad. They expected that game to ship 14 million copies by the end of its life cycle. It hasn't even hit 1 million yet, and the game's been out for over a month. And Disney, I don't know. They hear our voices, and I don't think they hear yours.
They do. It's just okay. So there's a massive difference between comics and video games. Besides
the volume of people,
besides size of audience, which that's a major factor. Video game market is considerably larger.
And I completely understand that. I'm just trying to make a point that like it's kind of bullshit that like you guys don't have a louder voice.
Oh, I agree, but here's the other reason why that voice gets more attention. Video games cost considerably more to make.
Yeah.
Comics, they can be pricey, getting like a really high-end artist and a high-end writer.
But nowhere close.
But, you know, it's not even comparable to hiring an entire video game studio to make a game for, 3 to 5 years is the average development cycle for like a AAA game?
Yeah, well, not for EA, which is, they apparently bid Battlefront 2 in 2 years, so...
Either way, it's considerably more expensive. So, yeah, losing some money on a video game of that size is definitely a higher priority than losing some money on some comics. Though, for the record, they have listened. It's just the backlash is not anywhere near as focused. Like, when it comes down to comic book people complain about just about every little thing that they can. There's very few, like, focused... efforts on a topic.
Well, you guys also can't speak with your wallets as clearly because that industry is already as small as it is.
True. Some of the people who are reading certain books have been reading it for 30 plus years, and they're kind of like the equivalents of like Mets fans. You know, hey, you've been born a Met, and no matter how bad the season's going, you are going to stay on that ship until it crumbles.
Yeah, I agree. Huh. I mean, I feel bad for you, dude. Like, I feel for you. I don't want this deal to go through. I enjoy the Fox films very much, and I'm sick of Marvel films, to be perfectly honest. Like, I don't want them to mesh into this, like, shitty hybrid. Like, I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. I hope it doesn't affect things the way that we fear it will, but, I mean, the writing's on the wall. History shows that this is how things are going to end up with Disney owning the property.
Pretty much. It's just, I guess, it was probably inevitable. Like, I mean, the Fox films have made money, but the MCU films have made considerably more. and they put out more, and they make far more. It's just, I guess I respect Fox for never, like, they were considering doing some cinematic universe elements, but even the little things they wanted to do were never quite on the same scope as what DC and Marvel Studios were trying to do, and even the Sony, like, Marvel films that are still trying to be a thing. Like, there's Venom's coming out next year. That's a thing.
I don't believe it.
Tom Hardy's, like, literally shooting it right now.
God damn it.
Like, that's a whole different can of worms, but I'm with you. I'm done with Marvel Studios after Infinity War sequel. I will watch it up to the Infinity War sequel, and I don't know. Maybe I'll just read some more comics and not go to. Maybe I'll go to more films, but not as many like superhero films. That might be fine. You know, maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I shouldn't be going to see every single one of these films, especially if I know I'm not going to enjoy them. Like I don't know. At a certain point, like the success ratio of a lot of these films was much higher for me than it was, or than what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, I could go through a dud every now and then because probably about, like, I don't know, for every 5 superhero films I'd watch, maybe 1 would be a dud. Like, at the very least.
I think you've hated the past 3.
I mean, I like Justice League. I did enjoy that, and I did enjoy Wonder Woman.
I was talking about Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel, yeah. Less so with that, yeah. Pretty much, I didn't see Spider-Man because I knew I was going to really not like that film. I liked Guardians 2. I liked
Guardians 2.
Here's like the thing with Guardians 2 that the difference between that and Thor Ragnarok is that Guardians 2 did bring out a genuine reaction from me. And it made me feel something. And it definitely was like sort of like Deadpool in the sense of like a lot of jokes did not land for me.
I disagree.
Though
I like
the
Deadpool.
jokes that didn't. Let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
The jokes that didn't land for me with Deadpool didn't really feel anywhere near as bad, but like the jokes that didn't land with Guardians were painful. And that's probably a lot of Marvel Studios humor is that like when it doesn't land, it is awkward as hell. And that's why Thor Ragnarok sucks so much ass is because it leans so much on that humor that like I do not care at all about anyone or anything in that film. But there's just a moment or two where it's like, okay, yeah, you do make me care about that. And while it's definitely not a great film, it's one I kind of can tolerate. But that's the best I can say about like anything post Age of Ultron, though. Like the post Age of Ultron, that's the best I've got.
Well, I disagree. My apologies for interrupting, but I disagree with you about Deadpool. I think that movie's perfectly fine doing it. It executed well on almost everything it did.
It's fine. It's a perfectly fine movie. I think its problem is that it gets a little too much credit. Just gets a little too much.
I don't think it gets enough credit. Like, personally, like...
What are you talking about? It's like one of the most successful R-rated superhero films of all time.
Critically, as far as when you were comparing Marvel films and we're ranking them, no, it doesn't get enough credit. Like, that movie's awesome, and that movie does everything...
And just about everyone loves that film. I would say...
For the wrong reasons. I think when we put it under a critical lens and we talk about it actually being a good superhero film, I think we overlook that for the humor. And I think we overlook that for what it is. And it's a Deadpool movie that Ryan Reynolds pulled out of his ass and worked really hard to do. But I think
he carried it in a way that no one else could have.
But the film's also, like, even if Ryan Reynolds if that wasn't the story behind it, it's still doing good because it's still a great film, and I don't think it gets enough credit for just being a damn good film. I think it gets a lot of credit for just being funny. Like, I
think the problem, yes, it does get, I'll give you the part about funny, but okay, so when we're talking about Deadpool, that movie hinges 100% on its actor. If you cast the wrong person in Deadpool, that would have bombed.
Agreed.
Because you are leaning on your actor to give a performance for a character where if you do it wrong, people will hate it.
But it just built on how great of a performance he had.
But that's what I'm saying is like it's not 100% a great film. It's banking on a really great performance, which is good. I'm saying it's good.
I mean, how good would
Iron
Man be without?
The story itself is kind of a little too full of itself.
I mean, how good would Iron Man be without Robert Downey Jr.? Like, I get your argument, but that's I wouldn't say the entire film cringed though. That Iron Man would still be a good film, but just wouldn't be as good without Robert Downey Jr. Like, it's the same argument.
When you're dealing especially with like the heavy comedy side of things, like comedies live
Tony
and die.
Stark's not
on an
funny?
actor. Huh?
Tony Stark's not funny? He's hilarious.
Yeah, there's some funny bits. Yes, there are some really funny bits in Iron Man, but that's also a pretty serious film.
Agreed. I maybe I just look at like all the serious moments in Deadpool and think, wow, they're
Like,
a lot
I'm
better.
honestly like when I talk about Deadpool, I don't hate Deadpool. I'm not as into it as everyone else, and it's not the same way as like I'm fine with Deadpool. I would totally watch it whenever. There are just certain bits where I'm like, that's like it's kind of thinking a little too highly of itself. Like it's like, oh, look how creative I am on that. It's like, not really. Like it's like, yeah, plenty of superheroes have killed before. It's just like you're doing an R-rated version of that, and that's cool. I've wanted R-rated superhero films for a while. I'm really happy that Reynolds got to make that film. That's something I've wanted to see him do for a while, and I think he was great at it. I think that it was a pretty basic film that had a really good performance, and I'm really hoping that a sequel can go forward and make a bit more of a creatively risky film for an R rating.
That's fair. I mean, you and I just won't disagree. I like that film's better than a lot of them. Like, if I had to do my top 10 Marvel films, like Deadpool would be in like top 5, maybe 5. Like,
it's better than a lot of Marvel Studios films. I will give you that. I'm just, when I'm talking about my enjoyment of it, it's not quite on the same level as anyone else, but it doesn't mean I don't enjoy the film.
no, I mean, when we put like Winter Soldier and stuff like that against it, it's not even close. Like, I'm not trying to praise it for being what it is, but like,
oh yeah,
I do think that like,
I'm just trying to make sure that like people don't get the wrong idea. I enjoy the film. I do. I own the film. I bought it on Blu-ray. It's just there are certain elements to that film where I'm like, well, that was kind of lazy. And that's fine. Like, that not everything has to be perfect. I'm not expecting an Oscar film out of Deadpool. But, it's just, I had some problems with it. Like, if I wanted to pop in an R-rated film with a comic book character, my go-to is Blade 1 and 2. Those are my go-tos.
Okay.
What? Have you seen Blade 1 and 2?
I saw them a long time ago.
Like, Blade 1 and 2 are... Those are films that have the perfect amount of kick-ass action for an R rating, some great character performances, some like really cool vampire mythology, and 2 has Guillermo fucking del Toro. Like, just owning the shit out of that movie. Like, both those films are good. And then Blade Trinity ruins it, but Blades 1 and 2 are... It's kind of like if I had my own top 10 superhero films, Blade 1 or 2 would definitely wind up on there somewhere. Just like The Crow. Those are like my 2 kind of like sleeper superhero, like comic booky kind of things that would find its way into my top 10.
I love that you showed me The Crow. That movie is awesome.
Love it so much. Like, and I'm really happy about Deadpool being successful, especially because that's what allowed Logan to become a thing. So credit where credit's due.
Fair. Back to what you were talking about earlier. I'm sorry.
It's all good. We were pretty much just shooting the shit about other films at this rate. Like,
Just the mouse. Or we were talking about, like having a loud voice in comics in comparison to games. Well, we'll see what happens. I think this deal is going to go through. We'll see what extent. We'll see if like they just kind of leave it. I think what's going to be really interesting for Disney as a whole is how Star Wars does on Thursday. Because my gut says this movie's not going to do as well. I think my gut is telling me that this movie is going to do maybe half.
I think you're underestimating Star Wars people. Like, I personally...
Dude, a lot of those...
let's talk about Star Wars for a second. A lot
of those people that you're talking about got burnt on the last film.
Really?
Like,
because it didn't reflect box office.
No, it didn't, but we didn't know that it was going to be this pretty much mirror image of the fourth film. Like, I don't know. Like,
what are your thoughts on the Disney films? Let's just go into that just as a little bonus.
On the Disney Star Wars films?
Yeah, just the Disney ones.
I think Episode 7's fine. I think Rogue One at the time I thought was great, but like I've had literally zero to no interest to ever watch that film again. I think the Solo film that's coming out next year, whatever. And like everything I've seen on Episode 8, like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, to be perfectly honest, I don't want so much Star Wars I don't know what to do with, and that's what we're getting. I don't need to go to see a Star Wars
doesn't feel
film.
like an event anymore, that's for sure.
What?
Like a Star Wars film felt like an event back in the day. Even the prequels, for like all the shit they got, it was a big deal when a Star Wars film came
Oh,
out.
it's Marvel's curse now. Like, oh, we're gonna go see a film every year now.
It's the actually here's your video game equivalent. It's the Assassin's Creed of the film industry.
Don't compare Star Wars to Assassin's Creed.
No. Like, but I'm just saying that mentality, like the Marvel annual kind of thing. It's like, to be fair about something, I'll give them this. Star Wars, like Marvel, has a vast enough set of settings and characters and time periods where you could possibly do one if they were like back and such. Like, that's an interesting idea in theory.
Mm-hmm.
Where I kind of stand with the two is that Force Awakens is okay. Actually, I really enjoy the first 2 acts of the film. The film loses me when they come up with another Death Star.
Yeah,
like, that
I
just
agree.
bores
That's
me.
bullshit.
I thought they had actually a really cool built-in way to enact people's nostalgia. It's like, we're going to go after Luke, and when we're finding Luke, we're going to find our nostalgia. It's like, oh, that's kind of a neat little narrative trick. Like, that's not a bad idea. But they lost me the moment that happened. Han's death was cool. I kind of dug that.
Agreed. Like, it came out of nowhere. I didn't see it happening. Personally.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I haven't had much of a desire to go back to that film. I'm curious to see where 8 goes. Maybe it'll be okay. I haven't watched many advertisements for it, so, I'm kind of relatively, I don't care. Like, I'm not a huge Star Wars guy, though that kind of helps.
8
Rogue One, on the other hand.
8 has me
Rogue One-
terrified. Like, I really don't know how that film's going to be, like, excellent. I think that film's going to be a little disappointing, to be perfectly honest, and I really don't know what's going to happen, because I wasn't one of those people who was burned on the last film, but, like, I'm just scared. I don't know. I've only seen a couple trailers, and I remember for the last one, I watched the Star Wars show, like, every day. I was so pumped. I was so excited. Now, like, I just want the week to be over so I can see it and there's no spoilers.
Like I said, very casual Star Wars person, because, I mean, I grew up watching the VHS tapes of the originals. The prequels kind of killed my interest, really. But like I said, never was really hardcore into it, but the prequels was just like, okay, this isn't that great. And then 7 looked interesting, and it was okay. I kind of got a little crazy with some of the talk of the movie, so I just never really bothered to go back to it. Mm-hmm. Rogue One sounded interesting. It sounded interesting as a premise, because I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be like more of my impression, mind you, was like, oh, this might be more of a spy film in the Star Wars films. That might be kind of cool, like trying to be in deep cover, be a bad person to, do the right thing at the end and get the Death Star plans. Like, that sounds kind of cool. And that wasn't what the film was, and like, well, that's a little bit of a bummer. I also just think the execution of the first 2 acts is really bad. Like, the first 2 acts of Rogue One are really bad in the sense of, like, I don't know, the first 30 minutes just feels like this was pointless. But then, oddly enough, the 3rd act of the film
it's really
was the
good.
best part.
Yeah.
Like, that was really good when people just started getting wasted, and I'm like, oh, wow, you're actually going to wipe out everyone. That's cool. Like, if the entire film was like this, I'd have dug this.
How do you feel about them, like, CGIing, like, all the characters in the end, like, Darth Vader, or the General Tarkin and Leia at the end?
That was kind of weird.
It was weird.
I mean, I guess, like, as far as effects go, that's probably as good as it's going to get these days. Now, I will say, to Rogue One's credit, it finally did something I didn't think was possible.
That
was. As a filthy casual Star Wars fan, I can't take Darth Vader seriously anymore because of the prequels. I laugh when I see him most of the time because he's just like, oh, he's just a little bitch. Like, he is. Like, I don't like sand. It's cuss and like that thing. But like the moment when he goes Jason Voorhees on that group of people, at the end of Rogue One, I'm like, oh shit. Like, that was really intense. Like, I love how it goes from, like, get us out of here to, no, take it. Like,
it was gory. It wasn't really gory as much as it was terrifying.
It
like,
was intense.
He was scary.
Yeah, like, that was impressive, and I think that third act is something I would watch. I would not watch that entire movie, though. And especially since Rogue One, I'm like, yeah, I really don't care about, like, the annual Star Wars thing. I will not see Solo because that just sounds like an awful... Who wants to see the origin of Han Solo? Who honestly wants to see that story? No one. No one wants to see that story. Like, apparently they might make an Obi-Wan movie. Maybe that could be cool. I don't know. But, like, I'm not a huge Star Wars guy, and anyone who's casual... Like, that's just the most boring thing you could come up with. Like, an origin story for an iconic hero that didn't need to exist. Like, come on. If you're going to use a Star Wars license, be a little more creative than that. Come on. You're Disney. You can take a hit. You can take a hit financially. You can put out some crazy, like, film that no one would expect. And it could make money still because you're Disney. Why are you playing it so safe?
Safe makes money. Maybe not as much, but they don't lose it.
That's true. I'll be curious to see what happens with 8, but like I said, casual interest at best.
We'll see. I'm seeing it Thursday night, so Mal's coming with me, and we're going to go, and like, I hope it's great. I hope it's excellent. I love Star Wars so much.
I might see it Thursday.
I'm going to go into it with the Zelda effect. I thought the new Zelda would be like an 8. I think this new Star Wars will be like an 8. And the game comes out to be one of the greatest of all time. I hope. The Twitter reactions of the people who saw it early said it's great, so we'll see.
I'm expecting a 7. Not really no offense to Star Wars things. It's just like I haven't really been like super interested in Star Wars for a long time. So I'll give it a chance and we'll see what happens. We'll probably talk about it
on Sunday.
Yeah, probably Sunday. My dad's actually in town next week, so my recording might get a little weird.
You should put him in it.
I'm not putting my dad in a podcast.
So what you gotta understand, boys, is...
Like, I haven't watched a Star Wars film since my son was born. Something like that, I don't know.
Oh, fair. Well, you got anything else for us today?
I'm good. You got anything?
I'm good. Well...
Okay. Well... Thank you once again for joining us, and we will see you again next week.
See you.